The Newsday continues here on One News Now Business. I'm Diego Castro. Here are the biggest stories on the economic and corporate fronts. Inflation further eased in the month of May. Data from the Philippine Statistics Authority show that the Consumer Price Index slowed to 6.1% last month from 6.6% in April. This is the fourth consecutive month of deceleration in headline inflation, or since January this year. The country's core inflation also slowed down to 7.7% in May from 7.9% in April. The year-to-date inflation stands at 7.5%, still above the 2 to 4% target of the government. The PSA said the downtrend in inflation was primarily due to the annual decline in the index of transport. Lower inflation for food and non-alcoholic beverages and hospitality services also pulled it down.
Ang nakikita namin trend is that it's on the downward trend. No? However, of course, may mga risks pa rin tayo while the major contributors before in the increase sa inflation ay nag-reverse na yung trend. There are still risks. Of course, one is really on the food items. No?
With the lower inflation in May, NEDA Secretary Arsenio Balisacan said the government can achieve its target this year. Balisacan also said necessary interventions will continue to ensure stable prices of commodities, especially with the threat of El Nino. The Philippines is on track to grow by as much as 7% in 2023, according to the Bangko Sentral. This is on the higher end of the Development Budget Coordination Committee's growth target range of 6 to 7%. According to the Bangko Sentral, the country's growth prospects remain favorable in the near term. The BSP says it sees the economy growing thanks to the expansion in the industry sector, as well as release of pent-up demand from China's reopening. However, a global economic slowdown amid tighter monetary conditions and elevated inflation pose a risk to the outlook. Let's discuss these figures further with Professor Emmanuel Leyco, economist and president of the Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Maynila. Good morning, Prof. Leyco, and thank you very much for joining us today.
Good morning, and thank you for the invitation.
Yes, Prof, as indicated in the news, inflation has been on a downward trend since January of this year. Can we say now that inflation has already peaked at 8.7% in December of last year?
Well, we'd like to hope so. However, this is too early to say that the annual inflation targets can be met. In fact, we're still far off the target 4% of inflation by the government. And there are still some movements that may disturb the downward inflation trends. Like, for example, the Middle East oil supply has already announced that they will cut back on their production. I think that is an indication that they're not too happy with the downward movement of oil prices in the world market. So they would like to stabilize that, but they would like to stabilize at the higher end.
Yes, Prof, inflation has been slowing for 4 consecutive months now. But as you said earlier, the figure is still definitely higher than the Bangko Sentral's target of around 2 to 4%. Do you see inflation retreating to this level?
Well, I also hope so. I hope that it does. However, like I said earlier, there are some more threats that are happening, especially when it comes to the oil prices, because oil is a major booster of inflation. So if that happens, that will not be so good for the Philippines. And also, I think in terms of agricultural production in the country, we hope that we also catch up. We hope that agricultural output in the country catches up with the demand, and therefore we won't need to import and be able to supply the requirements of our consumers in the country.
If possible, Prof, that target ng Bangko Sentral, when do you see this happening, the 2 to 4% target?
I was thinking perhaps this year may not be possible, but next year could be a good possibility that the 4% high end of inflation can be achieved in the country.
Yes, Prof, and we've been reporting about the downward trend in inflation, but do you think the masses are actually feeling this trend?
Well, not exactly. In fact, in some provinces, in some regions, inflation remain high. So, for example, in Central Luzon, it's 6.7. Mimaropa, it's 7.2%. In Northern Mindanao, it's 6%, and Davao is 6.3%. So, when it comes to regional disparities in inflation, I think we still need to achieve a lot more. But also, when it comes to income groups, if an income group is spending more than 50% of their income on food, definitely food remains high at 7.4%. So the appropriate inflation numbers for them will not be 6.1%, but could be 7.4% and even higher. And depending on the region where you're from, so for example, Northern Mindanao, food inflation is very high at 9%. Western Visayas, it's 8.7%. We're only seeing the numbers in its aggregate numbers, aggregate statistics. But when we start looking at income groups, geographical locations, inflation will not necessarily be this good. 6.1% is not good, but it's much lower compared to last month, but also higher compared to last year. Last year we had 5.2%, so we're still way up there. We still need to do a lot more to bring it down to a more appropriate level.
Yes, Prof, you mentioned the high inflation rates or prices of food. Then what measures do you think, Prof, should be implemented to ensure that the prices of food items won't see more spikes?
There's this irony in Nueva Ecija or Nueva Vizcaya. They are throwing kalabasa, because nobody could buy, and the prices have gone down so low. So it's not just a question of market demand and market supply. There's a bountiful supply. However, the projections that they've overproduced kalabasa, and therefore there are a lot more in supply rather than demand in the country. So, and in other areas, perhaps that will be in short supply. So we need to make sure that the agricultural output will meet the agricultural demand in the market. So we'll be able to meet prices based on the supply and demand. So it's not just a question of supply. There's bountiful supply than what the market is currently demanding. So perhaps in terms of projection, there should be a better scientific and more systematic projection so that we'll be able to meet the requirements of the market.
That's right, Prof. And this time, speaking about growth targets, the Bangko Sentral says our GDP is on track to grow up by at least 7%. What are your views on this? Is this really achievable, Prof?
It is achievable, considering that last year we did not do as well, but this year we'd like to outdo what we did last year. So 7% would be a good number to aspire for. But if production is not able to catch up, and we are basically stimulating our economy through consumption, and mostly driven by foreign remittances, that will not be good for the country. I think we need to work on economic productivity that will push the growth of our economy. I'm saying it should be more of a domestically driven, productive growth for our economy.
And speaking of growth, Prof, what are the risks to growth that you are seeing?
Well, number one, I think if the prices of oil continue to to decline or continue to stabilize, that would be good. If the foreign exchange stabilizes, maybe stabilizes going back to the 50s, as we had experienced in the last 2 years, that would be good for the economy. And if we are able to push more for our agricultural production, that will be good. However, if there are any movements, any disruptions in our currency, that will not be good for the economy. Especially now that there seems to be some disturbances happening around the country, especially with the US and China getting near
That's right.
confrontation. That will not be good for the economy, and I hope that doesn't happen.
And finally, Prof, most recently, the Maharlika Investment Fund was passed by the upper house and lower house, and was now awaiting the signature of the president. Yeah, but even former BSP Deputy Governor Diwa Gunigundo raises concerns about this bill, Prof. What are your thoughts on the MIF? Will it really help spur economic development, or are there certain issues about the bill that should first be addressed?
Well, actually, from what I'm hearing, the Maharlika Fund was intended to attract investments. I think the major factor in attracting investments is for the economy to grow and to show more opportunities that are not being met. So if the economy becomes more competitive, that will be the major attraction for investors to come to the country, not the Maharlika Fund. The Maharlika Fund can be set up, but if the economy doesn't become attractive to our investors, the Maharlika Fund will just become dormant.
Thank you very much for your time, Professor Emmanuel Leco, economist and the president of the Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Maynila.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Diego Castro. The Philippine Economic Zone Authority, or PEZA, says it is on track to hit its 10% growth target for approved investments this year. This comes after PEZA approved 14.93 billion pesos worth of 20 new and expansion projects in May. The latest figure brings PEZA's approved investments in the first 5 months to 48.03 billion pesos worth of 80 projects. Of the 20 projects approved in May, 11 are into manufacturing, while 7 are in the IT sector. The remaining projects will each focus on facility and economic zone development. The projects are expected to generate nearly 16.5 billion pesos worth of exports and create 4,480 direct jobs. Israel is now working on direct air links between Tel Aviv and Manila. Speaking at the Israel-Philippine Business Forum on Monday, Israeli Foreign Minister Eliyahu Cohen said this would boost visitor exchanges and trade between the two countries. Trade between Israel and the Philippines stood at $534 million in 2022, a 70% increase from the previous year. Israeli officials are set to meet with airline executives in the Philippines and the tourism department. Cohen's visit to the Philippines is the first by an Israeli foreign minister in 56 years. On to some tech news. Apple has unveiled some of its latest products at the annual Worldwide Developers Conference, and the highlight is the long-awaited mixed reality headset. Apple's new Vision Pro AR/VR headset made its debut during the event. It's described to be the company's most significant hardware innovation in years. The headset is expected to be for sale early next year for $3,499, more than twice the cost of the most expensive iPhone 14 Pro. In our currency, that is worth nearly 200,000 pesos. Apple shares climbed slightly on the news.
Vision Pro is a new kind of computer that augments reality by seamlessly blending the real world with the digital world. It's the first Apple product you look through and not at. Vision Pro feels familiar, yet it's entirely new. You can see, hear, and interact with digital content just like it's in your physical space. And you control Vision Pro using the most natural and intuitive tools, your eyes, hands, and voice. With Vision Pro, you're no longer limited by a display. Your surroundings become an infinite canvas. Use your apps anywhere and make them any size you want.
Apple also unveiled a bigger version of the MacBook Air during the event. It has a 15.3-inch screen compared with a 13-inch display on most MacBook Air models since the product debuted in 2008. This new model will be available in some Apple Store locations by next week and will cost around $1,299 or more than 70,000 pesos.
The new Air has everything you could want in a 15-inch laptop. It starts with a design that's astonishingly thin and light, yet feels incredibly solid and durable. It's only 11.5 millimeters thin, making it the world's thinnest 15-inch laptop. And it's easy to carry around at just over 3 pounds. It features MagSafe charging, 2 Thunderbolt ports, and a headphone jack for versatile connectivity. And it comes in 4 gorgeous finishes, including Midnight and Starlight.
Likewise, as upgrades to iOS 17, it comes with new communication features, new experiences, intelligent input, and sharing enhancements. One of its most significant features are updates to the phone app.
The phone app is essential to the iPhone experience. Some of our most special moments start with a phone call, and we're making a big update to the phone app this year. First, we're giving you a brand new way to express yourself with personalized contact posters. You get to customize exactly how you're represented when you give people a call. Contact posters feature beautiful treatments for both photos and memoji, paired with eye-catching typography. And in Chinese and Japanese, the new layout with vertical text looks incredible.
And those are the top business stories of the hour. I am Diego Castro. Join us again at 2 p.m. We are One News, all sides, all the time.